catch somebody. But the good questions, elicit something meaningful.
Yeah,
So,
and I don't even need the pictures. I just need the audio.
That's
really,
okay.
I'll just sit it here.
yeah. When I called you, I realized that I had that thought a while ago when I was trying to get people interested in this piece
Right.
out here, and I'm also working in Texas. I'm doing a big piece of Texas Tech,
Right.
and I was trying to make a link for them between.
Oh yeah. I want to use it as
a prop.
As a kind of a prop. Yeah. Just to see what happens. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was trying to make a connection between the expansiveness of the sea and what the experience of the sea did for me with my work and in my life and in my actions, and to make a connection between that and the life experiences of people in Texas and Oklahoma, which are the two states I'm working in, because most people will not have had an experience of, fishing 50 miles offshore in the ocean.
So what is that connection? What do you draw from that?
Well, I was thinking when you called me to hook up today that that organized religion, that nature worship, that spirituality is about making a connection or coming to terms with our size, our smallness. I think where we've made, as a society, where we've made our missteps is when we lose consciousness of our connection to the planet, and we lose awareness of our smallness and our insignificance over against the planets and the expanding universe and those kind of infinite concepts.
And the horizon represents infinity to some degree, correct?
The horizon is as close as we can come to. Infinity is something that we can't conceive of. We can't conceive of the expanding universe any more than you can conceive of death or non-being. It's impossible. So I think the horizon got me as close to that kind of expansiveness that you're trying to conceive of infinity. You can't. It's about expansiveness and just without a barrier. There's no wall. The mind keeps going. The eyes keep. I think there's actually a real physical effect that allowing your vision to. It's like an exercise. It's like going to the gym and running on a treadmill. It allows you. It's a good exercise for your eyes, just to to look at the horizon and let your eyes just go. I think it's a certain kind of relaxation. I'm sure some kind of optometrist would tell you that it's actually beneficial. Infinity is a concept. It's something that we really can't grasp it, like I said, any more than any of the absolutes. So I think it's as close as we can get to a model of it. And that's it. I was trying to make that connection for people who live here, rather than trying them to try and understand, which is what I'm trying to do in the work, to create that connection. And anyway, to reestablish that connection to me is a way of finding peace with our size in the universe, and when you find that peace, it gives you strength, and I think it abolishes a certain kind of fear of insignificance. I mean, we build giant buildings and drive giant cars and do all these things to assert ourselves, which is all about the ego. And I think, I'm trying to create connections and passageways that we can go down to operate. You can't operate outside the ego, but you can circumnavigate it. You can give it a back seat rather than have it be your guiding light. You can kind of be more of a backseat driver. I don't think you can overcome it, although there are a lot of, the Buddhists think you can. I don't believe in that, and I also don't think there's anything, I don't think ultimately there's any such thing as true altruism, because we're all survivalists. Everyone's trying to survive and get ahead and persevere. And I think that I think it's okay if you feel good about doing a good act. I think that's about as close to altruism as we can get. It's not, there is no selflessness. Although the Buddhists say we can get outside the self, with mantras and meditation, and I've tried. And I've tried through my work. But I still come back to the same guy. So I think the next step is to try and make your peace with that and to accept your size, again, and to really understand the scale of the human being against the Great Plains, or the scale of the human being against the expansiveness of the ocean. I mean, that's really about trying to approach inner peace for me.
If the horizon is representational to some extent of infinity and that expansiveness, then the art is representational in its way of the same concepts. Yes or no?
Well, I would say that's how I use mirrors. I mean, I was attracted to mirrors initially. Other people have used mirrors. Lucas Samaras made a fabulous, I don't know if he made a fantastic, I think it was in the 60s. He made a really fabulous piece. It was a room. He's a photographer, I think, but he's probably in his 70s now, if he's still around, I'm not sure. But great, really fantastic guy. Very, what's the word? I don't know what the word is, but he made it was at a Whitney Biennial, and he made a mirrored room. You walked into the room, closed the door, there was a glass mirrored table in it, and it just repeated itself.
Every surface was a mirror.
Everything was a mirror, so when you walked in the room, you saw repetitive images that went on ad infinitum. And he was after the same thing. He was trying to approach the infinite, to let the mind be expansive, to let the mind, run free as far as it could go. And that was what he found at that moment to be his connection to the infinite. Robert Smithson, the guy who did the spiral jetty in the Salt Lake, did these little tiny things with mirrors. He called them non-sights, which was about negative space. And actually, I think he said something like that the success of his work was in the interstitiary spaces between events, negative space. So he was a big influence, and I made pieces in those days which were really fabulous. They were very fun pieces for me and very exciting to make. They were totally guerrilla. It was like guerrilla art. I mean, I put a piece that I have on my website on the entry page is of a desk on top of a building in Manhattan.
I saw that. Yeah.
And I was building telescopes to allow the mind to expand, to see farther, which was my idea, literally, of explaining how I saw art. It was a tool to allow us to see farther and clearer. And so I built this. I took a desk that was actually a kind of a great story. It was really one of my first sculptures, other than my ceramics, which I made when I was a potter. But I rented a loft in Brooklyn because I couldn't afford to live in Manhattan. I was 24 years old. I was teaching at the Brooklyn Museum Art School. And I rented a 3,000 square foot loft in Brooklyn. I remember it was $300 a month in the early 70s. And it was a totally empty, giant cavernous space in the Badlands, what was then the Badlands of Brooklyn. And it was basically Spanish street gangs and some artists. And there was nothing in the loft but an old wooden desk. And it was like an executive's desk. It was a mahogany desk. And it was the only thing in the loft. It was really freaky. But that was my first idea for sculpture, and the desk was there. So talk about keeping your eyes open and watching for the signs. That was pretty wild. And this wooden mahogany desk was in there, and I was making telescopes. I was actually drilling out trees and embedding the telescopes into the dead trees, but I was drilling out the trunks of trees and turning the trees into telescopes and planting them back in the forest, which was was kind of a nature worship thing. It was almost witchcraft. It was bizarre, but so I got this brainstorm to do, and it was very stream of consciousness. And I took my telescope idea, and I drilled a hole in the desk, and we built a steel armature, and we turned the executive's desk into a periscope. And so I embedded a high-powered telescope, lenses, into the thing. And then I realized I wanted to put it somewhere where you could see something, because it was inside the loft. And we made it so you could turn it and all this stuff, we made like a universal joint so you could move it around. And I wanted to get it out into space so it would become more of an object, and it would allow people to see farther out over the landscape. But I realized it wouldn't, if you could fit it through the door, but there was nowhere to go with it. But there was a hatch in the loft up to the roof, and there was a metal, like a fire escape stair to get there, and then there was a big window, and the only place it would fit through was the door down the stairway, which didn't get me anywhere. I wanted to get it to the roof because I had spent time when I first moved to the city on the roofs doing sketches, because as I told you yesterday, the rooftop was a place where we had rediscovered the horizon. So I put the telescope together with this desk which I had found, and I hired the Spanish street gangs, or the Spanish street gangs. I can't tell you what the name of the gang was, and I had no money to pay them, but so I went out to my father's house and I cleaned out his bar, and I took and he wasn't giving me money at the time. He wanted me to be self-sufficient. So I took all the booze in the house. I put it in a truck, which I had an old Chevy Blazer, and I just took all the booze out of the wine and all this good, whatever he had. And I hauled it into this. I said, listen, I got no money to pay you guys, but I'll give you all this stuff. I need you we're going to strap furniture dollies to the desk, throw it out the window, and we're going to haul it up to the roof and put it up on top of this metal armature that I had built. And so that's what I did. I hired this street gang. I paid them with liquor, because it's all I had. And we hauled the desk on the rollers up the side of the building. If you can imagine, hauling the desk with the furniture dolly, this gigantic, very heavy, it must have been 300 or 400 pounds, up the edge, over the cornice of the building. We got it up onto the roof. We hauled it up about, I don't know, it wasn't that high, it was about another 8 feet above the line of the roof. And that's where that picture came from. And I got arrested for it because I got arrested for it because the people in the neighborhood thought we were stealing furniture from the building. And the police came up the fire escape stairs, the fire escape ladder, and they had their hands on their guns and everything, and they said, look, we're getting complaints here that there are people, that you guys are stealing furniture from the building. I said, no, I'm a tenant here. I rent the top floor, and I teach up the road at the Brooklyn Museum. You can call them and check it out. And this is an artwork. It's a participatory art piece. And they said, come on, you got to be kidding. Anyway, they made a few phone calls. Chief, this guy says you're ever. And I think we were able to keep it up for about a week or two. And of course, at that point, all I owned, I think, was a $350 truck. So, I wasn't really, I had no kind of concept of what personal risk was, other than bodily risk.